Hi, guys. Welcome back. It's Amy McDonald with the Foolish Optimist podcast. Today, our guest is actually very special because his TikTok announcing he was running for Congress is the reason why I made this podcast. So please welcome Robert People. He's running for Congress in the 15th Congressional District in Florida. He's a father. He's a veteran. He's married with 2 children, and he is seeking the Democratic nomination and then a win in Florida's 15th Congressional District. So thank you for being here. I'm so grateful.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it was your slogan. Obviously, you have a great last name for
Yeah.
this. But I heard you speaking, and I was like, oh my God, I bet there's so many great people running for Congress, and I want to talk to all of them. So why did you decide in 2026? What was there a catalyst? Was it a little bit of everything?
It's
Tell me the story.
it's been something I wanted to do for a while. Of course, being in the military, that's it's not practical to do it at that point. But I know
Right.
I've wanted to. What really started it was when I'm originally from Baltimore, and whenever I would go back home to visit, first I would just say it casually because a lot of the areas I grew up in, they're pretty run down, and Baltimore's grown as a population and in certain areas, the downtown areas, of course, but
Right.
where I grew up, a lot of those places are just really run down. So I would say things, I would tell my wife at the time, I would say things like, if I was mayor, I would do A, B, and C. I would start saying
Right.
over it. And each time I would go back to visit, I would find myself saying the same things over and over again. Eventually I planted that seed to say, you know what, is this something I could possibly do?
Right.
Now of course I just abandoned it because of, the military and how busy, crazy that gets. But to fast forward to more present, I ran for the school board in Texas and definitely didn't do the job I could have done and lost, obviously, of course. But after coming here, being here for 6 years, or about going on 6 years in October, when I sat down after the dreadful day of this past election, and that's become one of the things, Amy, that where were you on the day of,
Right.
come that as I sat there and watched all these states just flip red and it looked more and more like if we were going down the route we're going to, I just said at that point, now's the time.
Mm-hmm.
And really that was it. After we found out that Donald Trump won the election, it wasn't like immediate, but something was just starting with me like, this is the time to do it. This is the time to raise your hand as you did years ago to say, it's my turn now. Let me do this. So that was really what drove me to want to do this now and say, okay, enough talk. And over the years, of course, I've done so much talking.
Right.
That enough of that. I'm ready to do something now.
I love it. I know I can see behind you your military pins and I think a flag. What service were you in?
Army.
Army. Okay. And for our listeners, how long were you there? What did you do?
Oh, 21 years from 1997. I know that makes me sound a lot older than I am, but 1997 to 2018. And for the first half of my career, I worked as an ammunition specialist because that's what I came in wanting to do. But then by about 20, I was doing it a little bit early. So 2008, I switched over to journalist, Army journalist.
Oh, wow.
I wanted to tell the stories of this, the soldiers and what they do every day, because I know I got, that's something I really wanted to. I've always wanted to really do that as well. And when I, of course, as I'm coming up in the ranks, I'm seeing the attention a lot of the senior leadership is getting, rightfully so, because they're the ones who can speak the best, up to
Right.
our missions and things like that. But I also saw the junior soldiers just kind of, feel that they're just going through the motions and just, one day to the next. So I thought, you know what, let's put some attention and, give them something to feel, to help them. And luckily I had earned enough rank to where I could, well, for the most part, decide what stories I wanted to cover. And any chance I got, whenever there was training, I, when of course got the information from the senior leadership, but I would make a point to go and let the junior soldiers see me walking around and then just walk up to them and say, hey, what's going on? How do you feel? Things like that. And also to give them that reassurance that I'm not TMZ, because people have asked me this. Are you TMZ? You're going to go tell my supervisor?
No.
No, this is just, what do you feel? You could talk, your family wants to know what's going on,
Right.
what would you want them to do from this? So that's really what interested me with that, just telling their stories.
Your background in journalism does kind of make things click for me. If you guys are not following him on TikTok yet, you can follow him at Robert People for Congress. Same thing on Instagram as well. But you're kind of blowing up on TikTok, and I think it's probably due in part to the way you tell and have the ability to tell these stories that you're talking about, or even just current events, that kind of thing. And you're also a bit sassy, and I like that.
Oh,
We need a little bit of that kind of energy up in the house in the next couple
yeah.
of years. So
Hmm.
that brings me a lot of joy.
Yeah.
What you say? Yeah, sorry. If
Oh,
we're I cuss a lot on my TikToks as well, and people get like really offended by it, and I'm like, we're talking about horrific things. I'm allowed to say the F word. It's okay. Uh
100%. Yeah. And I'm with you there. I'm sorry to jump in there, but I'm completely with you. And I'm not somebody who, you know, does that all the time. I mean, being in the Army, I don't have a problem hearing it.
right.
And I'm somebody who, I want to be, as a journalist, of course, I want to be more, and as a communications major as well, I want to, I want to articulate my words a little bit, as much as I can on a more, constructive level sometimes. But other times, the best words are just the ones that come. And don't even bother censoring, just say it as it is. And when we have those in office now saying the things they're saying, it's just, it's ridiculous for someone to come back and say, "Oh my goodness, you said the bad." It's like,
Where
just
get literally get the fuck out of here. We're all grown ups. We're
basically,
adults.
yeah.
Like,
You're not going around calling people out of their name, things like
yeah,
that. And that's when I more so say, okay, all right, maybe let's not necessarily do that. But when you're saying, you're cursing as you're speaking, we
yeah,
can have all that.
yeah. No, I think there is a large group, and this pertains to Democrats as well, even more so. There's a large group
Mhm.
of institutional Democrats that really care about the way you're saying things, not the what. And I think that's part of why a lot of people
Mhm.
your age, my age, younger are frustrated, because it's like, no, we need the substance. We don't need to tone police. We don't need to get mad at
Yeah.
Representative Al Green for standing up during the middle of like
Yeah.
inaugurate. It wasn't. It was the state speech. I keep
Mhm.
calling it the wrong thing, and everyone's making fun of me. But now I can't remember what it was. But like things like that irk people,
Mhm.
right? So let's talk about some of your most important issues. Are there any issues that like really keep you up at night?
Right now, Social Security. And that's one that just bothers me because, for the simple reason, there's nothing real complex and deep with this. It's you're taking people's money from them.
Right.
And that's theirs. There shouldn't be anything controversial. No, nothing hard to be on it. It's their money. They should have
Mm-hmm.
it. Now, one thing I want to propose, and I have this on my website, and I'm still updating and working on my website now. So it's going to be at a more complete state later on. But one thing I want to propose, simply put, is the money gets sent back to all the rightful owners. Now, people resist that because it's something that's unusual, something we haven't
Different.
seen, right?
It's new and
It's
different,
new,
maybe.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I think it sounds, and of course I know it's not gonna be as simple as just doing it, but more needs to happen than what's going on now. I'm tired of saying and tired of hearing, "We're gonna protect Social Security." Just you keep hearing that. How are we
Mm-hmm.
going to do that? I don't feel the folks I've talked to, they don't seem to be any more comforted by us saying we wanna protect it. Yeah, it's
Right.
like, "Oh, yeah, you care about it, good," but at some point it's like, "Okay, but how are you gonna do it?" The way I look at it, Amy, is like, if you if you tell me, "Hey, Robert, hold this $500 for me until the end of the month."
Right.
And then I do it and I come back to you maybe next week and I say, Amy, I don't know if I'm going to pay my rent because I went to the casino and blew a bunch of money. And you know what? I spent $20 of your money too. So yeah,
Yeah.
you could be the most forgiving person, but eventually you're going to say what? You know what, Robert? Give me that money back.
Give me my money. Yeah.
Let me keep that.
Yeah.
And I say that part because we're also still hearing that it's going to run out, which that blew
Right.
my mind the first time I heard it years ago. Oh, Social Security is going to run out. And that's before I knew how anything worked. And being younger,
Right.
you were thinking about Social Security and such. But when I heard that, as I started doing more research, I'm like, wait a minute, how can
But
Social
how?
Security?
How?
Yeah.
We're
So
putting
I
so
was like, yeah, how does that happen when we're like, isn't that why we're putting it in there? So
Yeah.
what are the people, the folks in their 50s, I'm going to say, the last I understand was 20, 30 something,
Something.
approximately there.
Yeah.
And so that is the folks in their 50s, in their mid 50s now.
Right.
So what are we telling them? You're basically you're throwing your money away basically, because if it's going to run out by the time you're going to use it. What are we saying to them? So that's where this comes from. It's a matter of, if the government can't take care of the money, the only way anybody can feel comfortable about it is to send it back to them. That's one issue.
Yeah.
Is just to send it back and sort of restart this process over again as far as how Social Security is run, because right now the government's not doing it at all.
Right.
And if we have to go there, and the argument to that is, oh, well, what happens if the government goes into debt? That's not the people's fault.
The government is in so much debt.
It's already there. So it's like, yeah, why are we all
What
of
do
a
you
sudden
mean?
now?
Yeah.
Yeah, why are we going to stop all of a sudden? Oh, well, let's be mindful now that it's time to give people money back that's not ours anyway. So
Yeah.
that's one thing. I'm sorry to go so much into that
No,
one, but
I agree. I agree with you wholeheartedly. It was great
yep.
when it started. Maybe we need to adjust it a bit because it was
Yeah.
started in 1930.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly it. Yeah. The concept of, and I know I'm going to get this probably a lot when I propose these ideas, is, oh, you don't understand how things work. Well, I know what FUBAR looks like too.
Right. Right. No,
And
exactly.
if so, we're seeing how it's working. We see how the people feel with how it's working now. So we need to change that.
Yeah.
But also, Florida has the largest percentage of seniors of any state in the
Senior
country.
citizens, yes,
So
100%.
that citizens everywhere. That means when people know who I am and they see me walk around, that's one of the first things they ask me: what plan do you have for Social Security? And I want to be able to say, my plan is this, not rah, 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 we're going to protect it for you. This is what I'm looking.
It's literally, that's like this conversation that I've been having with younger women around me. I'm like, if you're in love with someone and they keep telling you they're going to do something and they don't do it, that's a problem. That's a situation that we've been in with our government for quite some time around a lot of issues. And I think finally people are like a little fed up, and we need some new things, some different things, and we've got to try stuff until it works.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So Social Security is a big one. Obviously, Florida is one of the many states with a 6-week abortion ban. I know on your website, women's reproductive care and just healthcare in general is there, at least in a couple of different spots. Could you walk me through your thought process behind that?
One thing I want to, and one thing I wanted to do is, bring more attention to that, of course, but also, I'm sorry, I got dark there for a second. Okay, here we go. Oh, I'm sure that was on this end, but one thing I want to do is bring attention to that. I feel like abortion is between a woman and her doctor.
Right.
It's and to me, and really, I don't. It's a shame that that sounds like a lot to some people, but to me, it doesn't sound like anything. It's like, that's not our business.
It's not my decision to make. Yeah.
Right. There's so many reasons, and I also don't want to. I want to be mindful too, and respectful of the women who have experienced abortion, because there's all kinds of reasons. None of them are our business, but there's all kinds of reasons. And so many people, abortion has been, I feel like, reduced to, the women who get pregnant by accident, and they want to just get out of it. And it's like, there's so many other reasons that's in it. And I don't want to, and I want to be careful not to say, okay, ladies, can we tell everybody what the reasons are? No, that's not it. But, we should be wise enough to understand.
Well, and that's the crux of the actual issue, right? It's a privacy issue.
Privacy, yes.
Right? Like, at the end of the day, it's about privacy. It is about being an adult, making the decision with your doctor, who is also hopefully an adult, and it's about privacy, right? Or if it's a child or a teen or something, it's parents and the doctor, what have you, and whoever else you want to involve. But the government in that, to me, is like a waste of time, a waste of money, and just very frustrating.
Yeah, and I can't imagine what that's like. Of course, being a man, I can't, because everything else is private, and it's okay. We seem to be okay with everything else being private, but that's the one that we got to say no. We got to get involved and so forth. And as a man, we're not regulated nearly that much. So to me, it's plain that it's just really a control issue.
Right.
And I want to support anything that says, no, we're absolutely not doing that. And I definitely would never support anything that way. But I also wanted to bring in something too that this is as of, I don't think this is not on my website yet, but this is something that came up in the last 2 weeks. I'm reading this book from Caroline Criado Perez, Invisible Women.
Okay. Writing it down.
And someone on TikTok suggested I read this because a question came up. I was watching the news a few weeks back, and the question came up with, I want to say menopause was it.
Yeah.
As far as what was, and I watched it, I caught it in the middle of it, but what is an issue that doctors need to be trained better in?
Mm-hmm.
And at that particular time, menopause was the topic. And I started to ask, is this really, not is this, but just saying, okay, how big of an issue is this? Because I never considered it. And I think I proposed that question. But I said, well, wait a minute. If menopause is, I wonder what other issues there are. And I got a lot of responses to this too. I said, okay, well, what other medical issues do women, what other health issues do doctors know very little about?
Right.
And some of the responses I just couldn't believe. It's like women are talking about they're having heart attacks. Go ahead. I know you want to jump in. Go ahead.
No, I'm thinking about it in terms of the way, like just the way our political conversations go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Women's healthcare is really complicated. Everything about us changes pretty much every 7 to 12 days, depending on what type of cycle you're operating through. And then, of course, every like 20 to 30 years, something massive happens. Either you're having children, you're getting into perimenopause, and like, but when we talk about women's healthcare, the hot ticket item, the thing that brings the money in is abortion. But there's, like you said, thousands of other things that we're not talking about. And because a lot of money and just general attention was more spent towards men for a couple hundred years there when we started this medical profession, there is a lot more information around how men handle situations and their health than women's. But it gets reduced to abortion, like so many other major, huge issues. They take the one that, and this is both sides, Democrats and Republicans, right? Like they're going to use the one that's going to get them the most dollars in the door, the most seats, butts in seats. I was going to say seats in butts, butts in seats at events. And abortion is one of those. But like you said, there's so much more into it. And like even, I think it was Halle Berry's doctor didn't know what perimenopause was, which is insane. She probably has some of the best doctors in our country.
I would, yeah.
I
hope so.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were surprised by that response from all the women in your followership?
Yeah. And it was, a lot of it was very sad. I mean, we're talking about things like, I think a few have said that they've gone 10 years, 15 years having some type of ailment and not knowing until they just happened to end up with a woman.
Yeah.
And it's like how, so many, and that's what led me to want to, be more interested in reading this as well, is that so many, we are the default. Men are the default.
Right.
For everything. So that's something also in this book as well. And I'm blown away by some of what I'm reading, because these are of course ways we've lived forever. And that is all based on all we know.
Right.
And I'm thinking, wow, it is based on, everything is based on us. Like, for example, if I can say real quick, the transit system, that's one that really caught my attention too, because the transit system, and I'll come back to the medical in a second, but the transit system was designed with men in mind. But the research that she did some great research, and a lot of facts and figures are in there. But in whichever country, I think this was a European country, women are the ones who are traveling the most and utilizing the transit system, but it was still designed with men in mind, and they haven't made any changes to it. So there's that. Restrooms is a big one too. It's something we don't, and I know, of course, when we especially at sporting events, things like that, any event where there's, you see the lines from the women coming way out around the building, and with men, we just kind of just throw them in and then come on out. And
we hate you guys for that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I kind of walk with my head down like, it just because
I didn't design the bathrooms, I promise.
Yeah, but with the smaller ones, often we have more there's a toilet and the urinals for us.
Right.
For you, it's
Right.
only, and it's, there may be 5 different ways we can go, maybe 2 in your bathroom.
Hmm.
So I would even be more interested in reading some more of this and bringing some of this to the forefront as well, really. And
Right.
that's, it can't just stay the same as it's been. So a lot of this is just, so much of it, and I can just keep going, but medical was mentioned as well.
Yeah.
And that's something that's, we can't, that's not acceptable. We just we can't continue. And how I propose that, um, is just really to look at, find out, first of all, what type of training,
Hmm.
in detail doctors you see. And also, folks say, well, yeah, the OBGYN and so forth, but that's not what, women are still getting this bad advice apparently from doctors. So
Hmm.
there needs to be a way that men aren't the ones, men aren't the default, basically.
Well, and there's like another layer to that, of course. Obviously, DEI is the new
Oh,
word, and like obviously the rolling back of affirmative action um, hurt a lot of marginalized communities that
mhm,
have different lived experiences. So my most recent doctor experience, I saw a lovely man, same practice as my doctor, couldn't get in to see my doctor. He thought I was going through menopause because I had one part of my body that was like, and I was, I'm worried you don't know what hot flashes are. Like, I'm also in my early 30s. If I'm having hot flashes, I'm not coming to you. I'm going to the ER because that's
mhm,
insane. Like, like, that is way too early and it doesn't make sense. And I
right.
was just so alarmed. Um, but like, with all of these institutions pulling back, and again, the Supreme Court overturning affirmative action, I think all of these marginalized groups, right? Like every woman wants a female doctor. I am I am
Mhm,
certain that every black woman wants a black female doctor, right?
mhm,
Like
yeah,
it's a different lived experience. They
yeah,
understand certain things that you are going through that a white woman would not get, just like would not understand. And I think
right.
that's like part of this is we just A don't have enough people who are doctors and B don't have enough diversity in the doctorship, and that's a question of how to get there as well.
Mhm.
And someone smarter than me might have the answer, but maybe you have the answer.
Right. I mean, we have to work something instead of just
Yeah.
because I don't hear much from Congress about any of this,
Right.
and we can't just say where we are. That there's no way. Some of what I received in the comments were just, damn it, they just blew me away. I was having a heart attack. Someone said, and the doctor thought it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Now it's us. They'll know right away that it's a heart attack. How did they
Right.
not get it? Or the overweight. That's another one that a lot get. Oh, you're just overweight. Once you lose some weight, you'll be fine. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
this can't be real. And it apparently is.
And doctors are like so dismissive. I think about the young woman in Georgia who's
Oh,
like literally she would be fine if a doctor had listened to her the first time she went. And
mhm,
now she has since, more or less passed away. And it's like it's really, really frustrating. And of course, there's like the bias and things like that. You like digging into that is going to make you very sad. But I think it's also very important for the people running our country to understand how
yeah.
all of this stuff trickles down to every single person, right? Every single person that exists.
Mhm. Are you a fan of Golden Girl? Have you watched Golden Girls by any chance? Have you seen any episodes?
I haven't. I've seen the clips on Instagram and TikTok.
There's just one episode, and the creator Susan Harris wrote this in as one of the episodes because it was something she went through, chronic fatigue syndrome.
Mm,
And I want to say the first time I saw that episode was some years ago. That's the first time it's sort of the seed kind of got planted in my head as far as some of the things women deal with. And just a quick, just quick recap.
mm-hmm.
Um, main character Dorothy, and those who know Golden Girls already know where I'm going, but the
Yeah.
main character Dorothy, she had chronic fatigue syndrome. It was hard. She was just tired all the time, but tired to an extent that it didn't make sense.
Right.
When she would be exhausted after coming out of the shower, just regular activities that she normally had no issues with, just lifting her arm, she felt like she had to, really
Just
work at it.
yeah.
And she was she had been dismissed a few times, and she finally got to a doctor. It was a man doctor, but she finally got to one who said, "You know what? We're going to dig deep and find out what this is." And it even got to the point where she approached one of the doctors who dismissed her at the end, near the
Yeah.
end. and basically just let him have it and say, you know what, I hope you get a better doctor than you were to me. And it really, it kind of just, it touched me because I'm just like, I can imagine how, and I can't imagine something like that, but you're saying, okay, something's not right here. And then
Right.
the doctors before this last one was just saying, well, if you say so, whatever, but we don't see anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, we also can't believe that everything that is to be discovered, we've discovered.
Of
So,
course not. No, yeah, we have not figured everything. I sure hope we haven't figured everything out, right? Like, dear God, if this is it. No, I'm kidding. I know we haven't, right? There's so many smart people doing so many things, running so many tests, and like,
mhm,
I do think part of the reason why so many people are getting shut down by doctors is the way our healthcare system is set up. I don't think our
yeah,
doctors have enough time, but I'm not in the medical profession. I'm a French major in college. I've worked in sales the majority of my life. So, um, but I do think that has to be part of it, right? So,
mhm.
okay. So shifting gears a little bit here, you are running in a district that, in my mind, reminds me a little bit of baseball. And the reason I say this, have you ever watched The West Wing?
No, I have not seen much of the.
Okay. This is like a very niche quote, but it makes sense and you'll understand why I'm saying it. It's from Sam Seaborn, like head speechwriter. He says, baseball, there's 162 games in a season.
Mhm.
54, every team's going to win 54. Every team's going to lose 54. What you do with the other ones is what matters, right? The last 54. So
Ah,
I was looking at the numbers in your district based
okay,
off of registered. We've got them written down here. These numbers are coming from the Department of State in Florida.
okay.
July of 2024. So you've got 165,000 registered Republicans. You got 142,000 registered Democrats and 120,000 people that are not party affiliated.
Mm.
Do you understand my baseball metaphor now?
That
I
makes
feel like I was a
perfect
little bit of a
sense.
stretch. Yeah.
No, that's perfect. Right. You said 142 thousand for the registered Democrats.
Yes.
No, that because I do know baseball.
Yeah.
Um, the number of games, yeah, that's a perfect analogy because yeah, even if we keep the same, and it fits because even 54, 54. Of course, we know that
It's not
for a lot
perfect,
of
but
teams, it's going to fluctuate
yeah.
one way or another, but you're still going to have that in the
Yeah.
middle of how these other games going to look. So, oh yeah, that's a perfect. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was digging through your
Mm.
all of the past elections in 2022. I think there was only
40.
250,000 people showed up, and it was like, yeah, it was a low number for Dems. And then 2018 was 285, but based off of your numbers of 2024, you've got somewhere around like 500,000 people registered in your district. I think it's like 440, 450, and like there's a lot of random parties sprinkled in there, and
Mm.
it's a PDF, so I had to go through and add them all up by hand, and I'm not adding all these up by hand. Uh, so I guess my question for you is those 120,000 voters, they're fair game, they're not party affiliated. Obviously, you're running against an incumbent.
Mm.
Incumbents have 1,000 different things like that work in their favor, just being
Mm.
incumbents, right? What's your thought process on mobilizing that 120,000 people who are not party affiliated? What's going on through your brain?
Well, we have a lot more there's a lot more we have in common than we are, and that's where the focus is going to be. I think a lot of times, especially when there's media just coming at us from everywhere. There's the regular news, there's social media, there's everything. I think sometimes we get to thinking that those are the only issues that exist, and we hear so much, a lot of these hot button topics, the LGBTQ community, racial
Mm-hmm.
issues, the DEI, so forth. And
Yep.
we're not even, yeah, we might hear groceries and gas prices thrown in there, but what are the things that keep people up? And I learned this from Val Demings. I know a lot of people know who she is, especially here.
I really like
And
her.
what are the things that keep people up at night? And when she said it like that, I thought, you know what, that makes sense to say it that way. Because people are not waking up and saying, oh my goodness, this undocumented immigrant, what is he gonna do? Nobody's thinking that.
Right, right, right.
When you leave the house, that's not on your mind. What's on your mind is, well, I hope I got enough money for groceries. Damn it, I gotta go get gas.
Yes.
What's gonna be that's the stuff I want to focus on. The
Right.
thing that we sort of look past but have always been an issue. And that's where I want to really start. I know I have to I'm running as a Democrat, but that's how I want to reach those individuals. Is what's something that what do you, because I'm going to work for everyone anyway. I'm not
Of
going to be
of
working
course.
for Democrats. So there's no point in saying, okay, I'm just going to look at, I'm just going to talk to the Democrats and that's it. I'm going to
Yeah.
work for everyone. So what's something that you would need from a congressperson? We don't always like and love who we work for or work with,
Right.
but
Right.
we're still going to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter whether we like each other, whether we have our fundamental differences. But I don't want to see you paying more for groceries just because. I don't want to see you paying more for gas. I don't want to see you just struggling, especially here. Hurricane season starts in 2 days.
That was going to be my next question. We can't
Yeah,
talk about Florida without hurricane season. That's
yeah, and I definitely don't want to see, just because we're on different sides of the aisle. I don't want to see
no.
conservatives or NPA, anybody other than Democrat. I don't want to see you suffering with these rising
Mhm.
insurance costs, things like that. But
Right.
that's those are the things that I want to use to try to reach folks.
Right. I mean, I think that's perfect. I think that's a perfect take. What people are staying up about at night, obviously, but then what I asked about you staying up at night, and you said Social Security, and I think retirement's up there with pretty much every American of
Mhm.
a certain age, right? We've had a lot of crises
Yeah.
recently that have demolished people's savings or their homes, which was a retirement plan within itself.
Mhm.
So let's talk a little bit about hurricane season. Uh, I grew up in North Carolina. I grew up with a lot of people from Florida because they left Florida because of the hurricanes. And that was 20 years ago. So in that time, things have gotten a bit worse.
Mhm.
And I don't know how much does Tampa get affected by it? Because your district is kind of like east of Tampa a little bit. Am I making this up? Just,
No, you're right. You're right.
okay.
Yep, that's exactly right.
I'm like picturing it on the map. And then I'm like, I think it is Tampa. Yeah. So like,
Mhm.
I guess a little bit, this is like a multi-part question, right?
Okay.
Obviously, climate change is a big deal. Natural disasters are a really big deal. I think something that really frustrates Americans on the back end of natural disaster is the length of time it takes the government to do anything. And I
Mhm.
do think that's partly because the division in Congress. So maybe the question is less about hurricane season, more about how are you planning to work with people who disagree with you, maybe are just like, I don't even want to talk to you because you're a Democrat, or what's your plan there?
Well, I know that's going to be tough because I have that against me. As much as people don't want me to mention this, I'm Black as well, and people won't talk to me for that reason also.
Yeah.
And and again, I'm not going to. It doesn't make sense to bring that. There's no need to bring that into for me to bring that into a conversation when it comes to natural disasters. But people again will still see that.
Yeah.
So
You can't hide it. You
you
can't
can't, yeah,
like,
yeah,
yeah.
and then I don't want to really, but, it's tough to, you know, what I need to try to do and what I wanna do is just simply say, "Okay, well, let me just let you speak." We do a lot of, and I'm saying we because I'm manifesting that I'm in there already, so I'm just gonna say we.
That's
We're going to,
right.
we do a
That's
lot
right.
of talking, but not much listening, and we're gonna be working for the people, so instead of going to a lot of these meetings or when I go out there and I say, okay, you know what, I'm going to do this and then give this huge list of everything I want to do. I want to find out, okay, what is it you need from
Right.
a congressperson? What do you
Right.
need? And let them be the one because, and I always say that that's what's going to determine my platform. I'm not going to put something together and then go run with that for the next year and a half. It's going to shift based on what you give me. So people like to hear people
What a
enjoy.
crazy concept. What a crazy concept. Listening
Yeah,
and adjusting as needed.
yeah, yeah. Um, and that's gonna sound weird to some because I'm supposed
Yeah.
to go and have this huge, when I go, I have a next week I'm speaking to the Southeast um Hillsborough County Democratic Women's,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to go with this book and I'm going to give a quick bio, I'll introduce myself and then I'm going to ask them, okay, ladies, you tell me. And the same thing we spoke about with the issues that women's health issues, doctors need to know better. And I'm going to let them talk. And I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
have my person, one of my volunteers, take notes on what's all there, and let that be what drives everything.
I was about to say have them record it because there's no way they're gonna get all those notes.
Well, record, yeah.
Just an audio note,
Yeah.
That's what us veteran salespeople do. But we have all these phone calls that are mostly recorded so that we don't forget anything. And then people are like, "You're so good at customer service," and it's like, no, it's because I had a reference point because I heard you say it, I wrote it down, and then but I could go back to this conversation and remember everything. And yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot of people show up with their they've got their staff in the sand. They're like, this is what we're doing, and they don't change directions ever.
Right.
Which is a bummer. It's really frustrating to see this happen time and time again, by the way. Like, I feel like it's been my entire adult life. Like, my first election was Barack Obama. So I've been voting for a while, and I just feel like it's getting worse and worse because people, have kind of forgotten they represent people, right? People are representing themselves. That is a trend I am noticing. Trying to get their name in lights, and then they forget that they need to work with other people to get things.
Yeah. Yeah. And something on top of that, and this is just disturbing. This is, it seems to be just showing the lack of concern, the lack of care. It's just showing that. It doesn't seem like there's a, this last, and I don't have names because I saw it. Someone posted on TikTok that this was a town hall. There was one, and I'm going to get there. I want to do videos on both these individuals because that just bothered me. One, so you may have seen this said that with the issues of Medicare, people being concerned with Medicare, we're all going to die anyway. That was her.
I saw that. Yeah.
And I'm thinking, are we for real right now saying this? This is just, this is. And yesterday I saw one where Texas, I want to say representative from Texas, I believe it was Texas.
The 10 Commandments?
No, not that one.
I was like, you made that video. I was like, I saw that video. That's insane.
No. This one was, what did he say? This one, he kind of just, he didn't know what was in the this big bill, this big, beautiful bill. So a woman asked the question. I can't recall now which one it was. And he talked about, now this is a representative, but also he was a lawyer, which of course that's great to hear someone say they didn't read something. The lawyer, that's the last person you hope would not read something. He said, oh yeah, he didn't read it. And he kind of just, it was his attitude because I feel like I'm a forgiving person. And I've been in a lot of jams and everything. So, I forgot to read. I didn't. He could not explain anything. And he kind of he said, well, that part I didn't know was in it. And he kind of just threw his hand up. And that's the part that just
smugness of it all. Like, I didn't read it. I don't have to. I'm going to get reelected anyways.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what I felt from that. Was just, that's what you say. People are basically screaming at you. Yeah. And you'd be like, I didn't know it was in there.
My bad. My B.
Yeah. And so I just thought, this is where we are now. So I feel that's what you mean when you say about it getting worse.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's really troubling to me, but
yeah.
All right. So you are a family man, married with children. You mentioned one of your personal items is education, right? And teachers' salaries and making sure that people are getting paid what they're worth, or closer to what they're worth. They probably won't get paid what they're worth. Close. What is your thinking around when you're in Congress, manifesting? When you're in Congress, how to have these conversations around public education, helping teachers, getting them the resources they need so that our next generations are educated in a competitive fashion. What's your plan?
What I learned some of this, Amy, in the when I was running for the school board, and it's bothersome to me that when it comes time to, increase teacher salaries, that's when we're cost conscious all of a sudden,
right?
Because in that district, and just real quick with this, at that time, this was 2019, and they had a budget of 9 figures. And this is a relatively small, small district in comparison.
Yeah.
And it's a 9-figure budget. So I would say the population maybe of that district might have just crossed 250,000, which I feel like that's, again, that's a lot. supplies. Um,
Yeah.
but non-figures for renovations, for enhancements and things like that. Things that ultimately I feel arguably could wait for the
Right,
most part.
right,
This is
right,
not, these aren't things where, okay, this school is falling apart. We have to do something.
right. It didn't get crushed by the last hurricane.
Right.
Kids
This
can
is
still go to school. It's still nice enough. It doesn't have to.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm talking about, and of course, when I heard nine figures, I'm thinking, wow, that's a lot.
I'm trying to count that out. Is that like multi-millions? Right.
That's in the hundred. That's in the hundreds
Hundreds.
of millions. Yeah, that
Okay.
was I can't
Okay.
remember the exact number, but I know it got up to 9. I love numbers, so that's the part that just stuck with me, was just 9 figures,
Ah,
and we have people holding signs in there was a gentleman in the back at these forums that we went to, and he made a point to go to each one. He was a bus driver, and he always held the sign that just he was talking about, "Hey, pay us more," and so forth, and it's
mm-hmm.
like, why is that man back here when we're sitting up here talking about all these enhancements and all
Right.
this? And it's like, this is stuff that can wait, but teachers, I mean, teachers were eating up there. I mean, they were in tears, literally in tears, crying about not knowing. They said the school year is stressful, but it's less stressful than the summertime because at least they're getting paid at that point. They don't
Right.
have any money to, they have to get, teachers are having to get second jobs, things like that. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No, keep going.
There's too much of that. And there was one gentleman who was running unopposed. So he was basically just kind of there to, he was just there.
Yeah.
And his argument was, well, coming off the interstate, whatever school, one of the schools, we want, the first impression people get when they come off the interstate, but we want that to look pretty. So we have to build this school up because we want that. And and I was sitting next to him, and I'm just kind of sitting there. I'm looking like this is really why we're not paying attention, because we want this
Like
to look
plant
good.
some flowers. Plant flowers.
Right.
It will look
Yeah.
nice. We don't
It's
need a whole new school.
that's sort of where and I'm thinking, this is how this is going to go. This is running for office. This
Yeah.
is it here. So I said, what are we saying to teachers
Mm-hmm.
when we're looking out for everyone but them? And
Right.
at the same time, the superintendent got a raise as well. And I would say very plainly, he's not going to go hungry if he doesn't
Right.
get it.
Right. No,
His
exactly.
family's going to be okay.
Their superintendents have been in the six figures since I was in high school. And I know that because one of our favorite teachers left to go be a superintendent. And he was like, he's like, my kids are graduating with yours. Like, I have to send them to college. Like,
Yeah.
but like he got an offer to like move up to admin and then become an assistant super or something like that. And we were all like, you're leaving us. You're abandoning us. And he's like, it's very practical, unfortunately. And my mom's a teacher. So I know
Oh.
it's like, and then of course we have the pandemic, right? So COVID happens. You
Mhm.
run in 2019. We're talking about this 10, 9 figure budget. And then of course the teachers start to really quit in droves during
Yeah.
COVID. And
Then you have
now,
that.
yeah. And so now we're facing a teacher shortage. We're facing dismantling the Department of Education.
Oh,
And
yeah.
things of that nature. But yeah, I think teachers are the most, I mean, they're literally the most important people.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I don't think I addressed your question. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I started into that. I didn't even get to that. If you want to continue, you can
No,
go
keep
ahead.
going, keep going,
I
keep
never
going.
even got to that. And I'm sorry. I should have started with that. The plan, as far as the plan goes as such, you know, we got to understand, and this is what I would say. I said, we have to understand, what are we expecting from teachers?
Right.
We all remember their teachers, all of us remember at least a handful of our teachers. Every
Mhm.
one of us do. And a lot of us are doing a lot of what these individuals, what these teachers taught us. I just found out Mr. Martin, his name was, passed away a few years ago at the age of 83. My 11th grade social studies teacher. And he was I loved him because he treated us like adults. And of course, when you're 16 and it's like, oh yeah, that's right. You're doing
That's
it.
all
He
you
called it.
want. All you
Yeah.
want.
Yeah. He was like, oh, yes, sir. And okay, thank you, sir. And when he said sir to me, I was just like, oh, okay. And he gave us that respect. He said, he gave us those lessons, he would, throw those in there, but it was not in such a boring way.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out while looking at his obituary, he said he moved to Ocean City, which is a few hours from Baltimore. And he said past students would come visit him all the time, all the way up until then. I said, I'm not surprised because I was looking him up to see if he was
Right.
correct. So,
Oh,
so we remember people like that.
yeah.
And we're also, what are we asking teachers to do? Take care of our children, our babies.
Right.
All
Right.
day. So how are we going to say, okay, take care of our babies? And we don't, we're so protective of our children going anywhere else, but school, it seems like we just thought, no, teachers are doing a lot of, not only are they making sure that our children are okay, but they're teaching them, they're
Yeah.
educating.
Yeah.
And why are they the ones having to get second jobs, side hustles, and things like that?
Hmm.
Because their salaries aren't enough, because we're paying everyone else before them, because we're buying so much before. I'm all for enhancing tech, building technology, things like that.
Totally.
But when a teacher needs help buying pencils and pens, which is probably about the cheapest thing one of the cheapest things you can get,
Right.
I think we need to say, okay, you know what? We can be okay here. Let's make sure teachers don't have to come out of their pockets with stuff, you
Yeah.
know? So there needs to be I've had some of my volunteers look this up as well, as far as, starting it within the district and then expanding, because that's something I really want to go nationwide with. I want this to
Right.
be something that's, throughout the country where, you know, what are because the numbers, of course, would be different
Of
in
course.
every city. Goes further,
Yeah.
$80,000 goes further in North Dakota than it does in San
Yes.
Francisco.
Of course.
So per year. So that's something I want to do, something really dig into this and say, okay, well, how do we look at these budgets and say, okay, how are teachers going to be paid? Because we need to do that. We can't keep kicking this can down the road and the teachers are still just being neglected all the way to the end, because that's just it's gone like this for however long. But like you said, with the teacher shortages, we need to start just saying, okay, let's not put this extra burden on the teachers we have left, because that's what's coming next. Is
Right.
that now let's just cram more students into their classrooms? It's like, no, let's pay attention to what's going on and say, okay, do we want more teachers to leave and for us to be in a bigger jam? Or do we say, hey, let's get these teachers happy to come, because they're already doing that to begin with. Teachers know when they go to school exactly what they're coming into, and they
Yeah.
still want it. So if that's what they're giving us, that they deserve better. I'm sorry, and I get really fascinated.
I get it. I'm similarly very passionate about it. And it's another one of those things, we talked about Social Security right up front.
Mm-hmm.
It's another one of those things that worked for a while from the time it was really set up. The way our public school system is set up, it's not that old, but the world around us has changed so much that we
Mm-hmm.
need to adjust, not just for the teachers. We need to help them immediately, but also for the kids as they grow
Yeah.
up, right? I want to click into something you said real quick
Okay.
before we wrap up, though. You were talking about how we care so much about where we send our kids, except for some reason to school. And this is a thought that's been running through my brain so much. Every time I see a school shooting, I'm like, I don't have children. I don't know how you do it as a parent. I don't know if I would like physically be able to let go of my child
Mm-hmm.
the day after a school shooting or something like that. So, with your plan to help the teachers, is there any thoughts on your head around in your mind around gun control specifically as it pertains to schools? I mean, I don't think I wanted to narrow it down instead of just asking you the broadest question in the world.
Right now, we do need to. That's a good question. We do need to consider that we definitely can't let that be. And thankfully, my son's 20 and my daughter's
Mhm.
17, but she still has 2 more years of school. She's a junior.
Yeah.
She's gonna be a junior next year. So, again, that can happen. And now I'm out. She lives in Maryland now. She lives with her mother, and these things can still happen. And we, it's not a simple. There's really not a simple answer. I don't want to
Right.
say that. Oh, I'll just do this. It's a tough one, because we it needs to be addressed.
Hmm.
And I don't want to say let's put metal detectors all over the place.
Right.
That's not something, children aren't going to prison, despite what some people think. They're not going to prison,
Yeah.
and I say that, just because some folks believe that the way a school system is set up is similar to
It's like the
how
pipeline into
a pipeline,
yeah.
yeah. And it's like, that's not something, a good feeling for kids, for our children.
No.
They should be safe. And so forth. But there needs to be some type of, responsible gun ownership. And I think what will happen there is and legislation. And
Right.
what needs to happen there is we need to have the conversations and continue to, there's so much, bad information going on. People are still saying, and I don't know if this is to troll us or just to uh, cause disruption and to be, to just be a distraction, but people are still believing that we want to take guns from anybody. And the answer is it's not even close to that. People are still saying that they're still pushing it. And it just, as frustrating as it gets strategically, I think we still have to focus on just saying it has nothing to do with that. The same way anything else will be regulated, the same way
Right.
driving, what you do, it's just about regulation. People say, well, criminals aren't going to listen to it. Well, listen to the rules and so forth. Well, but people don't follow, so we shouldn't have any laws because of the fact that people aren't going to follow them. No, that's not a good reason there. But to really get something going, I think and it depends, of course, on and I would say school district, but it seems like it's so random, doesn't it? Like
It
where
does.
it
But I
just
mean,
comes out.
well, and I was thinking it is random. It happens a lot. It happens way too often.
Yeah.
I was 10 when Columbine happened,
Mm.
and like I honestly do think the internet has proliferated some of these ideas, whether it's like a young gunman's manifesto just getting onto a Reddit or something like that. I think there's a lot of things leading into it, but I always think about the like women. Obviously, I am a woman. A lot of people, a lot of
Mm.
women, as they try to leave abusive men,
Mm.
are killed by them. And I think rather than framing it maybe as like gun control, it's just like it's a safety check. Like if someone has maybe that's, I don't know. We're talking background checks and things like that, but it's just like maybe a way to slow the criminals down.
Yeah, and
I don't know where the marketing fits in.
well, but you're right though. It has to be. We can't that can't be the one area where we say, well, we're not going to have anything here
Right.
because they're not going to listen to it because we have laws everywhere else, and it applies to everything else. So why would it not apply here? This is no different than anything, and it's just about, you're right, again, safety. And yes, there's, you can have, the most basic handgun, and women are still going to be, gone out, attacked by, men they're trying to get away from. So yes, it's going to still happen, but there's no reason. You still lock your door even though there's burglars outside, right? You still
Right.
do that. So it's not about trying to take from, it's trying to make sure what you're
Yeah.
doing is, responsible. And I've come across a lot. I have come across conservatives who have said they agree with common sense gun law and gun
Right.
control, legislation and things like that. And they're bothered by the fact that others, and this is important too, I feel like, Amy, this is important too, to remember that, every conservative is not MAGA.
There's so much nuance in our
Yeah.
we have a narrow spectrum, but there is a lot of nuance there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some have said, they haven't come completely to, off the dark, away from the dark side yet, but they would say, it bothers them that people are saying take guns with it. We know that's not what they're saying. So
Right.
they get it. They understand. And I think especially when we see how things are going now, there's going to be some of those numbers definitely are going to change. They're going to shift, but we also there has to be a sort of a welcoming, not, locking arms and getting off the
Right.
sunset, but enough to say, okay, you know what? We can pick the swords up later, go
Yeah.
back, talk fundamental differences, but we all want the same things when it comes to A, B, and C. Let's get so just a sense of understanding that there's a lot of people who see what's going on, don't like what's going on, and pride, of course, might keep them there. But let's also remember, let's give them a better option. Let's give them a better place to go.
I love it. So I've hit pretty much all of my questions. I do have like a quick 10 rapid fire for you right here at the
Okay.
end. But
Okay.
could you first before we even get started on that, could you just tell everybody where to follow you, where to join your campaign, how to donate, all the things?
Okay.
Your
I'm sorry. Okay. Peopleforcongress.com. My website is peopleforcongress.com. People with no S. I have to say no S because it's more common with an S. So peopleforcongress.com is the website. You can see the donate button there. You can donate for the price of a cup of coffee. And that's, it doesn't have to be anything huge. Of course, the more the better. Can't, deny that.
Yeah.
But there has to be, but again, you can, give whatever you can. Please don't feel guilty. A few have apologized for not giving. And I said, no, anything helps. Anything gets me closer to being able to, build this campaign and really, build this all so that we can take that next step and really get in office and really fix things. So anything that you can donate would be tremendous.
And you can also follow him on TikTok and Instagram at Robert People for Congress. Get the word out. You can send those to all of your Floridian family members and say volunteer on his campaign, all that fun stuff. So
Okay.
quick questions here.
Gotcha.
I think I know the answer to the first one because I heard something, but cats or dogs? Are you more of a cats or dog person?
I would say dogs because I'm allergic to cats.
I think I heard a dog barking. So do you have a dog?
No, that might have been outside.
I was about to say it might have been my neighbor as well. I'm in an apartment building, so
okay.
I thought I was coming from you, but I was like, oh, okay. All right. When you're craving food, is it a sweet or a salty or something else?
Craving like a sweet, probably. I'll say.
Me too. When you're like, I will vote for you because of that answer. No, I don't. I don't live in your district. Okay. When you're overwhelmed and you need a break, what do you do? What do you do to calm down?
Music. I'll either just listen to music in here. I like to do jazz, or I'll go for a walk.
Jazz is very soothing, and I feel like people don't understand or recognize that about it.
Yes.
Do you work out?
Yes.
You enjoy fitness, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely still do. I enjoy, especially cardio. But yeah, I do cardio and I lift.
All right. What is your go-to order? Now, this is a vague question on purpose. It's like something you can order anytime. Maybe it's a type of drink, coffee or alcohol or something else, but like something that has been steadfast with you that you enjoy all the time and you can always order. It doesn't need to be a drink. It can also be food.
Pasta.
Oh, hell yeah.
Pasta is always it. Pasta, I can never, it's hard to say no to. I mean, I can't eat so much of it, but pasta's it. Pasta's it.
Like, once you're on like day 4 or 5 of pasta in a row, you're like, somebody just roll me to my bed. Thank you.
There you go. Yeah.
All right. Last question. What is your favorite thing about your district that you're running in?
Favorite thing is, I think the mix of people. It's a good mix. It has a good city country feel to it. It has has both there. And I enjoy living in a dense population. So and being able to have both. It's good that I'm not in a completely, I think, blue district as Kathy Castro. And I respect Kathy Castro tremendously. She's in District 14. But this allows me to reach out to those who, this gives me a bit of a job to do. So I would say that.
Build some bridges and get some people. Yeah, I mean, that's all we can do at this point. And I think a lot of people are ready for those bridges to be built. So that's all that I have. Do you have anything else that you want to share?
I think, no, this was great. I appreciate this very much. Yeah, as far as the bridges go, that would be my sort of wrap up comment. Yeah, it's people are looking, I think. People are tired. And, I go to this example once, we all know someone who will complain to death about something, but will continue to let's use restaurants, for example. We're talking about food. They will complain every time they leave. They will always have something to say. Either we say restaurants, where it can be Walmart, Target, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And they will always, and of course, after a while, you get certain complaints, but after a while, you just wonder, okay, well, why did you keep going there? And other than it just being the only, I mean, we're not talking about in the country where it's only the only place that's right. There. But just if you have other options, you continue to go to that part. Well, I think sometimes, it's change. People are, they fear change, and other options just aren't there. And I think where we are now is that there's going to be a lot of people, to make my point, a lot of people see what's happening. They don't like it, but they're going to stay with it because it's comfortable. And they're going to continue voting Republican because it's comfortable if we don't give them a better option. And I think that's that's the focus we have to have here, is not to say, well, you know what, you voted for Trump, so you're out of luck, or you're voted for Laura Lee in this case, you're out of luck. It can't be that. Yeah, in my mind, I might be thinking, well, why should I come in? But that's not, we have to show that we're a better option, or we're going to just be repeating all this in 2026.
That's it. That's the 2026 mantra is give them a better option.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. And
Thank you.
yeah. If you've made it this far, thank you so much. Thank you for following The Foolish Optimist. You can follow us on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, pretty much. We're going to be dropping new episodes every Wednesday, and you can watch the video episodes on YouTube. If you would like to, please give us a review, leave comments. You can also email us at thefoolishoptimistpodcast@gmail.com. If you see any really great candidates that I should be talking to, send them my way. Thank you.